The pitch is almost too clean. Water, soap, a conveyor belt, and a line of cars paying $25 a month to drive through a tunnel that runs itself. No inventory that spoils, no kitchen, no cashier. People call it a laundromat for cars, a machine that prints money while you sleep. In February 2025, Zips Car Wash filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, carrying $653.9 million in debt across more than 260 locations. It was one of the largest chains in the country. It did not fail because people stopped washing cars. It failed because of the exact structure that makes this business look so simple from the outside. Here is what a car wash actually costs. Start to collapse. Start with the format that everyone actually wants to build. The express exterior tunnel, the kind with the automated pay lanes and the free vacuums. Land is first, and it's brutal, because a car wash needs a corner lot on a high-traffic road, the same real estate a gas station or fast food chain wants. Land runs $1.5 million in a typical model, more in a hot market. The building, a 100 to 150-foot tunnel structure, is another $1.2 million. The tunnel equipment, conveyor, pumps, blowers, controls, is roughly $800,000, and high-capacity setups run past $2 million on their own. Now the costs nobody puts in the spreadsheet. Permitting takes 6 to 12 months, and lenders now require an independent third-party traffic study before releasing a dollar. Water reclamation units, often mandated by environmental regulations, add real cost. Site work, grading, drainage, utility upgrades for heavy machinery routinely runs into 6 figures on its own. Added up, and industry estimates put a state-of-the-art express tunnel between $3.85 million and well over $10 million, with equipment alone 40 to 60% of the total. A realistic all-in number for a single competitive express wash lands around $5 million. That's the entry ticket, and you haven't washed a car yet. Now the wash is open. Here's what it costs to keep the lights on, one line at a time. Labor comes first, and it's smaller than you'd think. That's the whole appeal. An express tunnel runs with 2 or 3 attendants per shift instead of a full crew, because the conveyor does the work. But smaller isn't small. Payroll, taxes, and workers' comp on even a lean team runs well into 6 figures a year. Water and sewer is next. A tunnel uses 40 to 80 gallons per car even with reclamation, and rates climb almost every year. Then electricity. The motors, blowers, and pumps that move a car through in under 3 minutes are enormous power draws, and one of the fastest rising line items on the statement. Chemicals, soaps, waxes, ceramic sealants, tire shine, are consumed on every car, a variable cost that scales with volume. Equipment maintenance is relentless, because a conveyor that breaks is a business that's closed. Brushes, belts, bearings, and pumps wear out on a schedule. Insurance, property tax, and payment processing fees round it out. The single largest fixed cost isn't on that list. It's debt service. Finance $4 million of a $5 million build, and at current rates you pay roughly $300,000 to $400,000 a year in interest before principal. Stack it all together, and a single express location carries roughly $700,000 to $900,000 in annual costs before it earns a dime. So how does the money actually come in? 2 ways, and only one of them matters. The first is retail, the one-off customer who pays $15 or $20 for a single wash. The second is membership, the unlimited plan, $20 to $30 a month, that lets someone wash as often as they like. Right now, the market rate on those plans clusters around $25 per month. Here's why membership is everything. Mr. Car Wash, 548 locations, reported that its Unlimited Wash Club members generated 76% of all wash sales in 2025, and that the average member spends roughly 7 times what a retail customer spends per year. The whole model rests on converting one-time drivers into subscribers. Run the math. Convert 2,000 members at $25 a month, and that's $600,000 a year recurring before a single retail car. Add retail on top, and a strong express location grosses $1 million to $1.5 million annually. Subtract the $700,000 to $900,000 cost stack, and a mature site earns a four-wall EBITDA margin of 35 to 50%. That sounds fantastic. That's the number that attracted billions in capital. But that's the mature, disciplined, fully subscribed site. The industry's actual average operating margin is 14.1%. The gap between 50% and 14% is where almost everyone lives, and where almost everyone gets into trouble. Because that 14% average hides something. The car wash business has one external variable that can erase your entire margin without you making a single mistake. And between 2020 and 2025, it did exactly that to the biggest players in the country. The variable is saturation, and it works through debt. Between 2020 and 2022, private equity flooded this industry. The 10 largest car wash chains in the United States are now all owned or backed by PE firms. Capital was cheap, interest rates were near zero, and the subscription model looked like an annuity. So operators built, aggressively. The express tunnel segment alone now captures 50.9% of the entire North American car wash market, growing at roughly 6% a year. The problem is that a car wash has a fixed catchment area, the drivers within a few miles. When a competitor opens an express tunnel 2 miles away and offers $25 a month unlimited plans, they don't grow the market, they split it. This is cannibalization, and in a saturated corridor, it's mathematical, not competitive. Benchmarked retail revenue fell 11.9% year-over-year in the second quarter of 2025, as the marginal drive-up customer simply ran out. Then rates rose. All that expansion was financed on floating rate debt raised at 2021 to 2022 pricing, and when rates climbed, it repriced painfully. The interest bill went up while revenue per site went down. In June 2025, the SBA tightened lending standards, and banks raised their equity requirements. The cars per day projections that sailed through loan committees in 2021 now get interrogated line by line. The money that built the boom stopped flowing right as the boom needed it most. Which brings us back to the company from the opening. Zips Car Wash was not a mom-and-pop operation. It was a national chain, backed by institutional capital, that grew to more than 260 locations. In February 2025, it filed for bankruptcy. The story of how is the story of this entire industry's structure. Zips grew the way the playbook demanded. It expanded from around 185 locations to over 260, largely through acquisitions, buying up existing washes to build scale fast. Every acquisition was financed. Debt stacked on debt. The trigger was the same combination that hit everyone: saturation plus leverage. As Zips and its competitors packed more tunnels into the same corridors, individual sites cannibalized each other, and revenue per location softened, while the floating rate debt that funded the expansion repriced upward as rates climbed. Falling revenue per site met rising interest expense, a vice closing from both sides. For a highly leveraged operator, that's fatal, because debt service is fixed. It doesn't care that your revenue is down 12%. The interest is due regardless. Zips entered Chapter 11 carrying $653.9 million in funded debt, a number that only made sense in a world of cheap money and endless membership growth, and became a death sentence when both assumptions broke. Here's the part that matters. Zips didn't collapse because it washed cars badly. Its tunnels worked and its members were real. It collapsed because the industry's structure, capital-intensive builds, floating rate debt, A fixed pool of local drivers turns a downturn in any one variable into a solvency crisis. This was not a management failure. This was structural. Now the cost that never appears on a pro forma, membership churn. Every projection is built on member count. 2,000 members at $25 is $600,000, and the spreadsheet treats it like rent, steady, recurring, reliable. It isn't. According to the International Car Wash Association, membership churn ran 31% in the first quarter of 2025, up from 29% the year before. Nearly a third of your members walk away every year. Another 11% say they're unsure about renewing. Walk through what that does. You spend real money to acquire a member. The discounted first month, the app, the staff time. On paper, that member is worth $300 a year. But if a third of your base churns annually, and the fastest to leave are the ones you signed with the deepest discount, you may have spent more to acquire them than they ever paid you. So a location that looks profitable on its member count is running on a treadmill. It must convert new members every month, just to replace the ones leaving. Each cohort costing money to acquire. A wash reporting 2,000 members isn't holding 2,000. It's losing 600 a year and replacing them. When conversion slows because a competitor opened 2 miles away, the treadmill runs backward and the recurring revenue the whole build was justified on starts to drain. And there's another cost, growing faster than any other line item, that can close the business in a single afternoon. Utilities and environmental compliance are the fastest escalating structural risk in this business, and they compound. The obvious version is cost creep. Water, sewer, and electricity rates rise almost every year, and a car wash is one of the most water and power-intensive small businesses that exists. Every rate hike lands directly on your margin, and over a decade, these increases quietly compress a 14% margin towards zero, without a single dramatic event. The catastrophic version is environmental. A car wash discharges wastewater full of detergents, road grime, oil, and heavy metals, and it's regulated for it. If your reclamation system fails or discharge exceeds permitted limits, the penalties aren't a rounding error. Environmental fines run into the tens of thousands per incident, and a serious contamination event means remediation, permit suspension, and forced closure while you fix it. A wash that can't discharge water can't operate. This line item sits at zero for years, then in a single event becomes large enough to end the business. Here's what changes as you grow, and it cuts both ways. What gets better at scale? Purchasing power on chemicals and equipment, shared management, and above all, membership data. Large operators with 4,000 plus members per site reported conversion rates around 11%. They've learned exactly how to turn drive-up traffic into subscribers, and that knowledge compounds across locations. Fixed corporate costs spread thinner with every wash added. This is why private equity rolled the industry up, the model rewards scale. What gets harder? Debt and saturation, the two things that killed Zips. Every location you add is another multi-million-dollar financed asset, and the more sites you pack into a region, the more they cannibalize each other. Small operators fail from having no cushion. Large operators fail from having too much leverage. The failure mode inverts. At a certain size, this stops being a car wash business at all. It becomes a real estate and subscription finance business that happens to spray water. The mature operators know this. Net leased car wash properties traded at cap rates around 6.3% in late 2025, priced like the recurring revenue annuities they're pitched as. The question stops being, how well do you wash cars? And becomes, how well do you manage debt and retention? Those are completely different skills. Take one express tunnel, built for $5 million, financed at $4 million. Run it two ways. Optimistic. You're in a growing corridor with no direct competitor. You convert 2,500 members at $25 a month. That's $750,000 recurring, plus strong retail on top, grossing $1.4 million. Your costs, including debt service, run $850,000. You clear roughly $550,000 in a great year, a mature site margin near the top of the range. This is the number in the pitch deck. It is real, and it happens. Realistic. Change 3 things, none exotic. 1. A competitor opens 2 miles away. Your retail traffic drops 12%, and conversion stalls. 2. Your main pump array fails. Repair plus close days costs $60,000, and a wave of cancellations. 3. Rates tick up, and your floating rate note reprices, adding $50,000 to debt service. Revenue falls toward $1.1 million. Costs climb past $950,000, and your $550,000 profit collapses to near $150,000, or below zero the year the pump dies. The difference between those two scenarios is a competitor, an equipment failure, and a rate change. None of these are exotic disasters. All 3 happen to someone in this industry every single week. The industry did not collapse in 2025. Its average operating margin held near 14%, a profit pool around $2.7 billion. The washes that failed were not the worst operators. They were the most leveraged. Distress concentrated where cheap debt met saturated markets, while disciplined operators kept earning 35 to 50% margins at mature sites. The dividing line was structural, not operational. The survivors share concrete habits. First, they own their land instead of leasing it, so the real estate appreciates underneath them and they control the site. Second, they finance conservatively, fixed rate where possible, lower leverage, so a rate move or a soft quarter doesn't threaten solvency. Third, they treat churn as the core metric, obsessing over retention and conversion rather than raw member count, because they know the stated number is a treadmill. Fourth, they run a real feasibility study before building, mapping the catchment and the competition so they don't build into a corridor about to be cannibalized. Fifth, they hold enough working capital to absorb the pump failure and the bad quarter without panicking, because in this business, the failure is never the wash, it's the balance sheet. Go back to the machine that prints money while you sleep. It's real, but only after a $5 million build, only past a 31% churn rate, only if the corridor doesn't saturate and the debt doesn't reprice. The car wash isn't a simple business with a hidden catch. It's a leveraged real estate bet wearing the costume of a simple business, and the water is the least important thing in it. If you want the same forensic breakdown on the businesses everyone romanticizes, subscribe.